Okay. All right, so we're going to talk about plateaus tonight because hopefully that's not going on right now in the middle of a contest. No. Sign-in sheets going around, so just as long as you get it before. So anyway, hopefully you're not at a plateau right now, but eventually at some point you may experience that, and it really is part of the process. So let's address that now, though. Objectives for this evening, you should be able to list at least 3 causes, 3 ways to overcome, and 3 ways to prevent a plateau.
Amit needs a ticket too.
All right, let's get a ticket.
I'm going to get a ticket for being late.
Yes. It's a $25 fee.
Yeah.
Only $50.
Okay, so anyway, I like this little cartoon because it's got this frustrated lady and she's just got all these thoughts going around, right? And maybe you've been there before, but yeah, is my scale broken? Help, I'm confused, I'm frustrated. Okay, you may be able to identify with one or more of these sentiments. All right, so first of all, what is a plateau? It can feel like a sudden stop, right? Like you're getting on the scale and it's like, what is going on for the past, I don't know, 2-3 weeks, whatever. It can last for weeks, months, or years. Years. It could. We'll talk about that, okay? Please realize that it is an inevitable eventual occurrence because your body cannot safely just keep losing and losing and losing unless you're just like flat out wasting away, all right? Which obviously you do not want that to occur either because now you're going in the opposite direction of health. All right, let's take a look a little bit into the science again, not to get too sciencey, but as you may have noticed, if you've done weight loss programs before, or if you've done this program before, you have a tendency to lose a little quicker at the start of it. Why is that? With calorie reduction, the glycogen in the muscles is used for energy. Okay, so it's kind of like your sugar stores. And glycogen holds on to water. So that's why when you first step on the first couple of weeks, it's like, oh, I'm killing it. Okay, well, part of that weight is water. It's not all fat. So it's not an accurate measure of how much fat mass has been lost since roughly half is fluid. Okay, so obviously that can't continue safely because we're mostly made up of water and we need water in our body as well. How did you get here? Okay, a change in your body composition dictates a change in nutritional needs. So especially going back to that metabolic test with Epic MedSpot, if you hit a plateau, that's a really great, again, if you feel like you're hitting all your benchmarks with diet and sleep and all that stuff, if you're hitting a plateau, it's a good idea to go next door and get the test and figure out what are my calorie needs? Am I over? Am I under? Like, what is happening? And you may be surprised by what you find there. Loss of muscle typically occurs when you're trying to lose weight. So that's typically a natural part of the process. Now, obviously, you want to try to minimize that because muscle dictates metabolism, right? Lean body mass is what you want. You don't want to lose that along with the fat. So when you lose muscle, that creates a reduction in your metabolism. Strength training now becomes key. So when you're done with this program, it is advisable that you have some type of strength training piece in your goals past this program. We'll also talk about the importance of protein coming up. There's also the set point theory in which the body maintains a weight it's most comfortable with and further weight loss may result in weight and regain. So again, we'll talk about some tips on how to combat that. And you may also need less calories or more activity. Many scientists name exercise as a successful predictor for weight management. Protein. So remember how I said that we typically lose muscle along with fat when we're losing weight. So strength training is one piece, protein is another piece. It is important to get adequate protein when you're cutting calories. It helps preserve your lean body mass. The typical recommended range is anywhere between 15 and 35% of your total daily calories. If you're trying to lose weight, I would suggest going towards the higher end of the range. Health factors. So let's say you're like, well, I'm eating really healthy. I don't know what is going on with my weight. Okay, let's look at some of these other things. Are you smoking? Do you have a thyroid problem? Now, if your thyroid is managed, then that should not be a factor. You know, if you're on medication and your thyroid levels are normal, that should not be to blame. What's going on with your adrenals? Obviously, if you're pregnant or breastfeeding, like, you know, it shouldn't be a goal to lose weight at that point. Menopause is also a factor. Medications you're on. Some medications, a side effect could be weight gain or increased hunger. Dietary supplements, inadequate sleep, that's a huge one. It really impacts your appetite hormones. It impacts your cortisol levels. So again, if you're stagnant and you're not sleeping, there's a really good area to chip away at. Hydration, so your metabolism suffers when you're dehydrated. And then, as somebody brought up before class, alcohol stalls things as well, okay? Your fluids are all shifting. And so if you've ever noticed, like, if you go out on the weekend and you have some drinks and then all of a sudden the scale's like either stagnant or you went up, it's likely that you're having some fluid shifts from the weekend. And then if you had salty foods on top of it, probably having a lot of fluid shifts. Likely in the next couple days after you'll see it come back down, but that's assuming that you're following a healthy diet, you know, the days past the alcohol consumption. Okay, what else leads to a stall? Less stringent habits. So less or loose monitoring of your portion sizes and high calorie food choices. People will come to me and they're like, well, I don't have it that often, or well, that's just once in a while. But then, like, I keep hearing that throughout the entire session, and it's like, okay, let's define what that means. And then when I ask people to define what that means, it's like, oh, well, it's happening every other day, and then this is happening all weekend. You know what I mean? So, and you may not realize that's happening. It's not, you know, it's not to your fault most of the time. But anyway, it is a good idea. I'll have lots of people come back to me and say, you know, food journaling worked and I stopped. And I'm like, go back to food journaling for a little while and see what happens. And a lot of times that will jumpstart people. Okay, research suggests plateaus have more to do with sliding back into poor habits than to do with physiological reasons. If you are following a healthy lifestyle regimen, typically it takes about 3 years to reach a stall, okay? Like an ongoing stall. You may stair step after a while, but eventually it should move. It shouldn't take years to just be stagnant at one weight. Keeping to a diet exactly should produce results for years, though the rate may change. Okay, let's talk about the weekend rebound. Okay, this is, I bring it, it seems simple. You're probably looking at it like, well, yeah, but again, this is not uncommon for me to see people and they just don't realize they're doing it. Okay, so for instance, let's say this person needs about 1,900 calories a day for weight maintenance, but they want weight loss, so they're aiming for 1,400 calories, okay? So as you can see, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you know, we're somewhere in the 1,400 calorie range. Great. Okay, now Friday comes and we're at like 24. Saturday we're at like 32. Sunday we're at like 27. And again, this is not uncommon for me to see stuff like this. Okay, so now we average 1953. Not only is that over what you need for weight loss, but it's over what you need for weight maintenance. Okay? I'm not saying don't go out on the weekend and have a good time. Just you know, again, if you're stalling, take a look at what is going on there. All right, if you're stalled, perhaps it's also time to reassess your goals. A plateau may indicate you have lost all the weight you're going to lose following your current lifestyle. That doesn't mean you can't lose more weight, it's just whatever you're currently doing probably needs to change. You'll also want to consider, are you now within your ideal body weight range and or recommended BMI range? If you have any disease markers, so for instance, if you had like a high blood sugar on your last lab results or your cholesterol was high, is that now improved? So that's something to factor in. Are you meeting fitness goals? Are you completing an exercise technique that you couldn't really do 6 months ago? Please take that into account. And then, are you feeling better overall? So again, it's not all about the scale number. All right, you probably have seen these inspirational type quotes, but they really, they do resonate. The reason people give up so fast is because they tend to look at how far they still have to go instead of how far they have gotten. Nutrition. All right, everybody's a little bit different, but even just starting with a small calorie deficit, 100 to 200 calories from what you're currently doing, you can start there. Other things to focus on, fiber and protein. Fiber is going to help fill you up. Clean you out, so even that can stall you. If you haven't gone to the restroom in a few days, like seriously, it shows on scale. Okay, and then protein to preserve that muscle mass and also to help you feel full. Focus on adequate low-calorie fluids so you're flushing everything out. Choose foods that require work. So, for instance, not that you can't have peanut butter, but like nuts take a little bit more work to eat, right? Take a little bit more time. Limit the empty calories which do not satisfy you. Please don't go please don't go under 1,200 calories unless you are under some sort of medical supervision for that, okay? Under 1,200 calories, I can't say it enough. If you are under restricting your calories, you're gonna break down your muscle for fuel, which in turn is just gonna ruin your metabolism. It's really hard to get enough nutrition under 1,200 calories unless you're a child, okay? And I don't want people to feel like they're starving themselves either. That is not okay. All right, is your current calorie level still appropriate for the exercise regimen that you're performing? And if you've lost weight, is it still appropriate for your current weight? So again, let's say you've lost weight in this program and you're stalling, the metabolic test could tell you how to, if you're eating enough calories. Portion control. Again, back to that food journal. I know it's cumbersome, and no, I don't want you to feel like you have to do it for the rest of your life. But if you're stalled and you haven't been journaling for a while, just do it for like a week or two, okay? Actually measure out your portions for a few days to ensure that your eyeballing isn't deceiving you. Okay, the journaling we talked about, it's also a source of accountability. It should be your own learning tool too. Don't just, blindly fill out your journals or log your journals and give it to your trainer. Actually take a look at your journals after a few days or a week or whatever and look at your patterns. You try to figure out what's going on. The trainers do a really great job of reviewing things, but they have like 10, 12 journals and the very limited time to, look at it. So you should be looking at it too to see, okay, I like that I did this, this worked, I felt good on this day, no, I felt like crap this day, okay? Because they can't tell you how you feel, you know how you feel. Okay, check your dining out. I don't like the term cheat meals, but I think you understand what I mean by those, right? So if you go out on the weekend and you decide to have a more decadent meal, great, but again, with that whole weekend rebound thing, that the chart that I showed you, how often is that happening? Is it happening all weekend, or is it just one isolated special occasion? Practice mindful eating. So by that, like actually paying attention to the food that's going into your mouth, are you eating in front of the TV versus at the dinner table and focusing on what you're doing? Stress, I cannot stress that enough as well. Excess cortisol is released when you're stressed, resulting in increased appetite and abdominal fat storage. I feel like we're all very stressed, and that's kind of just unfortunately a normal part of our culture, our society. But you make sure you have outlets. If you can't control what's going on at work or whatever, please find outlets, and maybe that's here, which is great. I mean, obviously we want the gym to be an outlet. So find stuff that you like to do. Get to know your eating type. Are you a situational eater? So again, on your way home, do you always pass by Culver's, and then that's kind of your cue to stop there, so kind of know if you're that type of person? Or are you a social eater? You hang out with a certain crowd on the weekend, and then you tend to have several cocktails, whatever. So kind of get to know what kind of an eater you are. Okay, the excuses and the blame as well. And I'm sure you've heard this all before. Now, obviously, injuries, that's a legitimate excuse. If your physician has told you you cannot exercise, okay, yes, please, go by what your doctor advises. However, that should not hinder you from making nutritious food choices, okay? And like if you injure your arm, but you have no restrictions on your legs, there are things that you can do here, right? So we just have to think for a plan B. Kids, I get it, I have small children, but yeah, there's a daycare here. Is there something you can do at home? Videos, weather, okay, that's another one. Work schedule, limited support. I mean, I hope you don't feel like you have limited support. I mean, at least with Biggest Loser, I hope you feel like you have some camaraderie, somebody to relate to. Poor cooking skills, YouTube is fantastic. You can search anything you want to learn to make, okay? And it doesn't have to be, like a chef, like a huge meal. I mean, literally, if you don't know how to cook up chicken, you can search how to, and I guarantee there will be like 50 videos on how to cook chicken, okay? And like nice videos that literally it's step by step, put the ingredients in, do this. I mean, it will walk you through. Okay, here's another one. Stop comparing your behind the scenes with everybody else's highlight reel. I put this one in here because, again, I have had people come to me and they're like, well, I get discouraged when I see this person doing this and they just look like, they can do it and I can't. Okay, again, we don't know that person's background, right? Like maybe they grew up doing that type of activity. Who knows how many years they've taken to get that far. Okay, so again, you're your own person. Okay, the scale thing. Preferably, unless you've been advised by your doctor for like a heart condition or whatever, weight check once a week. And especially women, because we're a little bit more susceptible to fluid changes, okay? If you're getting on the scale every day and you're like getting stressed out, like, oh, now I'm up a half a pound, now it's stuck. I mean, that can really just get inside your head, okay? Just come to your weekend, your weigh-in every week, same scale, hopefully same time of day, right? Okay, not 5 p.m., 5 a.m., yeah, try to keep it consistent and don't stress out about weighing yourself every single day. Remember that, yeah, waste, stored carbohydrates, water weight, that all gets factored into what you see on the scale. Set SMART goals. Tweak them as you go, look at them often, don't just tuck them in the back of your head, actually like have them written down somewhere you can see them. Tell others about your goal. A lot of this is on your handout, so I won't go through everything in detail here. Do reward yourself, but obviously try not to make that with food. Make it with, I don't know, a new book, a movie, like something that you enjoy. Okay, but do reward yourself because it is, incrementally, like it will help keep you motivated. Try something new too. If you're like, oh, I've been doing this day in and day out, for 5 weeks, whatever, like, okay, maybe it's time to try a new recipe, mix it up, try a new kitchen tool. Avoid the negative influences. Identify your barriers. Focus on positive self-talk. Please don't beat yourself up. Okay, I've read articles that say you really should talk to yourself as you would a child, and not like, baby talk. I'm talking about like, hopefully you would never say to a kid like, you're fat, you're ugly, right? Oh, I'm all right, you would no, but do you know what I'm getting at, right? Like you would not say that, I hope, to a child. Please don't say it to yourself, okay? Or any other type of negative talk towards yourself, okay? And then have a good mindset with things. All right, steps to positive body image. Appreciate all that your body actually can do and what it's capable of and how far it's gotten you. Keep a list of things you actually like about yourself that are not weight related. Remind yourself that beauty is not simply skin, it's a state of mind. Look at yourself as an entire person, not focusing on specific body parts. Surround yourself with positivity and positive people. Shut down voices inside your head that tell you you're not good enough, you're wrong, you're bad. Wear clothes that are comfortable for you and make you feel good. Become a critical viewer of social media messages. Do something nice for yourself and use your time and energy that you might have spent worrying about food, calories, and your weight to do something to help others. Other tips for prevention. All right, we've kind of talked about this before. Obviously, scientifically, it's all about calories in, calories out. However, there are very different makeups from food to food, and I always just use the chocolate bar versus an apple. That's just my usual example. But obviously, the makeup of a chocolate bar versus the makeup of an apple is quite different, even if you're talking about the same amount of calories or, so the benefits that you're going to get from one food versus the other are going to be quite different. So it isn't just about, oh, well, I can eat 1,200 calories, well, I'm going to eat cake, for 3 meals and I'll still be within the 1,200. Okay. Your carbohydrates. Typical recommendations here, it should be between 45 and 65% of your total daily calories. Again, with trying to lose weight, it should be towards the lower end of the range. Focus on complex, unrefined carbohydrates, water-rich carbohydrates, so like vegetables. Research indicates that 1 gram of fiber equals about the loss of 7 calories. Now, that doesn't mean you can eat like 40 grams of fiber and expect to lose like all this weight, okay? That's not what I'm getting at. But do eat fiber. Excess sodium also begets fluid retention. So again, if you're frustrated, you're like, why am I gaining a ½ pound in a day? I mean, well, first of all, some of it's waste and from eating. However, if you're eating a high sodium diet, ditch your processed packaged foods, get creative with saltless seasonings. Hydration. Subjects that drank 2 cups of water before meals consumed approximately 75 to 90 calories less daily. And then water also flushes excess sodium. Okay, giving up on your goal because of one setback is like slashing your other 3 tires because you got 1 flat. Again, you've probably seen this one too, but meaningful. Okay? That's it. Questions? Questions?